back with Patricia Angus, and I wanted to ask you, in the work you do,
Sure.
how do you measure success?
Measure success. That's a loaded question. Everybody's talking about measuring success right now. They're measuring outcomes. They want metrics to apply everywhere. I've chosen to place myself in an area that it's very hard to measure. And so I suppose I would have two answers to your question, okay? I think one question is, how do I measure success for myself in terms of the work that I'm doing? And the other is, how do I measure whether a family that I'm working with is actually succeeding? And so for me personally, I love to help people get somewhere they wouldn't have otherwise without my involvement. And so what that means is I sort of see potential everywhere. I see these incredible resources in front of me, family members, and I want to help them unleash that potential and really do the most that they can in the world with what they have. And what they have to me doesn't necessarily mean financial assets. It can mean the relationships that they develop. It can mean just who they are as people. And when I hear feedback from a client about how I've helped them get somewhere they couldn't have gotten, how I've been compassionate with them, how I've been able to help them accomplish something they didn't think they could accomplish, then I feel I've succeeded. And I love to get an email, you know, in years gone by, somebody saying, wow, because we had this discussion, because you showed me a different way of thinking about things, because we opened up a certain relationship, I've really reached something in my life I couldn't have otherwise. That to me is success. When I think about measuring success for the families that I'm working with, I would say that it's very easy to figure out quantifiable measures, and it's very easy to figure out whether they have more assets in their account today versus tomorrow. That sort of should be a given, frankly. You know, I'm not so lofty that I don't think that you have to have some real concrete success in terms of the resources that you have behind you. But I think that the successful families have a way of being in the world that is in balance, okay? That they understand that there's a certain humility that they have, there's a certain grounding that they have. They don't think that the problems they're facing are easily fixed. That success to me sometimes is when they ask more questions than answers, and when they've had an impact in their community that is larger than they would have expected, and that they live in a community that is in balance with them. I've worked with a lot of people in very difficult situations, and a lot of people that, frankly, the world doesn't find sympathetic. You have an incredible business and the most assets in whatever country you live in, whether it's Latin America, Asia, Middle East, wherever. And yet you're living behind a gated wall. You're not speaking to your family. You're afraid to go out. Your business is probably at risk because of the political environment that you're living in. I've worked with people who've had to flee their country because of discrimination that they've faced. Those are incredibly complex issues. But having the ability to work together as a whole, not cut off from the rest of society, is really critical to the kind of success they're going to have. So I don't necessarily equate it with just the capitals. I don't equate it just with their financial assets. I'd like to say, you know, sort of, you know it when you see it. And I think that they tend to think multi-generationally. I think it's pretty impossible to have a successful legacy if you're not interacting with all members of your family across generations on the various things that you're doing together. And have some sense of civic responsibility in terms of how it fits together, that you cannot thrive when everything around you is not. It's just not possible.
Thank you.
Which is really the systemic way to think about things. So,
Thanks.
thanks. Sure.